Welcome to the Slay Your Day Show with Avi Vatsa. Welcome back to the Slay Your Day Show. This is your host, Avi V, and it's my honor to introduce you today to a brilliant author and a financial wizard, Mr. Bruce Wiseman. Bruce Wiseman, also known as John Truman Wolfe, is a best-selling author, former banker, political activist, and humanitarian. He is a global financial advisor to governments across the world, a former senior credit officer for two Californian banks, and the co-founder of the prestigious Los Angeles-based business management firm Wiseman Burke, Inc. He's also the host of the John Truman Wolfe Financial Hour radio show. He is the best-selling author of one of my favorite books that really opened my eyes. It's called Crisis by Design, which really exposes the real forces behind the global financial crisis. He also runs his acclaimed financial newsletter, which I also love, called Strategic Financial Intelligence, where he gives his readers solid advice on the financial markets and cryptocurrencies, giving the power to you to become free of financial slavery. So please welcome Bruce Wiseman. Hi, Bruce. How you doing?
Avi, doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure and it's an honor. Thank you for being on the show. And I think it's the perfect time to have you on the show with all that's going on with the world.
Yeah, lots going on.
Yeah. So what is going on according to you?
Well, I mean, in the U.S., interest rates heading up and continuing to do so. Inflation has a big bite out of a lot of families' budgets here. I live in California. Gas here is over $6 a gallon. It's gone up I think 2.5 times in the last year or so. The various financial markets have had a very rough time. The Dow down roughly 4,000 points. Precious metals have been off, which is a little bit of an oddity with inflation soaring, but gold has been down. And cryptos, of course, are in what the one author some time ago called the crypto winter, but it's just almost summer here. But the cryptos have had a rough few months, so there's a lot going on. Unemployment is down here. There are some pluses, but it's a challenging time to be an investor.
That's right. And there's a lot I don't understand because, like you said, gas prices are up, but the U.S. has a lot of gas supply in the U.S., right? Inflation is up, but the dollar is at an all-time high. So I don't understand what's going on, and a lot of people don't either.
Yeah, there are a lot of contrary facts, Avi. The one I just mentioned, with inflation high and going higher at a 40-year high, and precious metals typically go up as an inflation hedge, have not done so. The gas prices, while there is oil here, the current administration has negated oil leases. There was a major pipeline that came into the U.S. From Canada called the XL Keystone Pipeline. If I remember correctly, something like 800 million barrels a day, and President Biden just stopped it. So the administration is speaks glowingly about climate change and helping the environment, but the things that they're doing are destructive to the American economy. So it's a rough time economically, politically. this country has not been this divisive since the Civil War.
It's true.
So it's some challenging times.
That's right. That's right. And we'll go into all of that a little bit more later. But for those who don't know you, so what's your background like? How did you get started into this financial world?
Well, it started, I was actually, I have a graduate degree in American history, and I was teaching history at San Jose State University, which is a little south of San Francisco. And I had a new baby. My father, who was a merchant up in the Bay Area, came down and asked me to come up and kind of take charge of a chain of furniture stores. So I made what at the time wasn't a really smart decision. It turned out okay, but I left graduate work and I went up and worked for my dad as the credit manager of a store and handling all kinds of financial things. And then I moved on from that to a bank, a new bank that had started in the Bay Area. And because of my graduate degree and my work in credit, I got a nice position with them and kind of climbed the corporate ladder there for a few years and became a banker.
Wow. Okay. And then fast forward, when was the first time you wrote your book?
Well, I started writing. I formed a financial management company in Los Angeles with a dear friend of mine. In LA and New York, there is a niche in the accounting industry called business management. Business managers handle the business and financial affairs of entertainers. So our clients were actors, actresses, producers, directors, screenwriters, and that and that kind of thing. So I went from there into I started writing a newsletter for that corporation, and then just kept writing. I got bored with accounting and taxes and so forth. I mean, there's only so much fun you can have or write about taxes.
Right.
So I started writing other things. I started researching more. I had gotten very interested in the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank when I was a banker in the San Francisco area, and I continued to investigate those institutions, which are really have become predators. These are global predators, these two organizations. They were founded towards the end of the Second World War at a convention to restructure the planet's finances at a place called Bretton Woods, New Hampshire in the United States. That conference is called Bretton Woods. And out of that conference came the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. They had, laudable sounding purposes, but they basically become global predators. And we could talk more about that if you want, but they've become oppressive organizations.
And nobody really talks about this particular bank. Does it still exist?
Which one?
Bank of International Settlements.
Well, the Bank for International Settlements existed before Bretton Woods. Yes, it not only exists, the Bank for International Settlements is the senior bank on the planet. I call it the godfather of the global financial mafia.
Wow.
The BIS, which is called in short, is in Basel, Switzerland. While they're in Switzerland, they're immune from Swiss law. Their employees are immune from any prosecution. They have their own military or police force on the property. I mean, they are an entity unto themselves. And they are the central bankers' central bank. So 55, I think it's 55 these days, may have changed one or two, but 55 central banks on the planet are members of that bank. So the Bank for International Settlements is the central banker's central bank. Central bankers fly in there every couple of months, make decisions on global interest rates, and they go home
Okay. And
and
so
implement what they discussed. Yeah.
and they okay, so this bank is still there, still controlling all the central banks, like the Federal Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve Bank, and all the other. Sorry, go on. Is that correct
Yeah,
though?
yeah. I was just gonna. Yeah, the U.S. Fed is a member. The Bank of Italy, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, the PBOC, the People's Bank of China.
Wow.
All of the major central banks on planet Earth are members there, and so if the BIS dictates something to the central banks, of course, control the individual sovereign finances of the countries that they represent. They control interest rates and the amount of money that's available, and mortgage rates, all that kind of thing. So, dict, you know, dict, you know, let's call them policies, are made in Basel, and then these guys all go home and implement the policies.
Right. Okay. Wow. So who runs this bank, the Bank of International Settlements?
Well, it's owned by I think it's 11 central banks. Last time I looked, it was 11 banks were owners of the stock of the Bank for International Settlements. So
Wow.
a lot of this stuff goes back to the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States, which, as your listeners may or may not know, is not a government organization. It is privately owned, a bank, and when you try to research who owns the U.S. Fed, though that research pulls back, interestingly, to the Bank of England, which was one of the original central banks on the planet. So that's a whole bunch of conspiracy that we could talk about, but all these central banks belong to the BIS.
Wow. Okay. And what is the current policy dictated by the BIS?
Well, it depends. I mean, they issue various policies. One of the policies they issued a little while ago, which I've written about a great deal, and your listeners may not be familiar with this, but at a meeting of the central banks, a policy that was mandated by the BIS called bail-in policy was implemented. A bail-in means that a troubled bank can take depositors' money without their permission and convert it to bank stock. Let me repeat that, because people, that sounds unreal. The bank, under bail-in policy issued by the BIS, can take a certain percentage of depositors' money without their permission and convert that money to bank stock, which is, just what you need, stock in a failing bank. So that's one of the policies that they issued a little while ago. The chairman of the European Central Bank, he's now changed post, a guy by the name of Mario Draghi. I think he's now head of the Central Bank of Italy, I believe. But he was the head of the European Central Bank and had worked for the BIS. Anyway, he mandated bail-in policy in the EU, and Canada implemented bail-in policy a couple of years ago, and the U.S. and England worked out an agreement on how bail-in policy would work in the U.S. and England, and that's posted online. You can go read that.
Wow.
Just so People don't get the idea this is conspiracy theory stuff. This is real.
Yeah, it's on the website, right? It's on the Bank of International Settlements website, I think. Even on the
it
US.
could well be. I haven't seen it there. I've seen it elsewhere, but it's there. It exists.
Wow. So this is not conspiracy. A lot of people may think this is conspiracy, but this is facts, right?
It's absolutely fact, and it has been bail-in policy has been applied in a couple of European banks. I forget the names. I think a bank in Austria and one other. The test on bail-in policy was in Cyprus, and for those of your listeners that kind of follow such things, you may remember that the banks in Cyprus, which actually have a lot of money from old KGB guys that stash their money offshore. There was a lot of Russian money in that bank, and the European Central Bank basically did a test and implemented bail-in policy there. Took money from people, just took their money, and then there was a press conference where a member of the European Central Bank said, "Okay, good. This is how we will be acting going forward."
Wow. Okay. So this has been going on for a while. There's this
Yes.
bank, it's setting policies. Now there's three major things from like what I see that's happening in the world today. It seems to be there's a global financial crisis or slowdown happening. Is that true?
Well, globally, you're talking about a global slowdown?
Global, yeah. I mean, of course, in the United States, but that's affecting globally as well, right?
Yeah, I don't. I couldn't opine on what's happening in Italy, for instance. I don't follow their economy closely. Globally, interest rates are going up, and sovereign debt around the planet, Avi, is sky high. I mean, sky high, which puts those countries at risk. And the something I've written about at some length. Most of the planet's big banks have billions and in some cases trillions in derivatives. A particular kind of derivative called an interest rate swap, which is basically a bet. To be very simple about it, it's a bet between banks on the direction of interest rates. Bank of America says the interest rate on Greek bonds is going up. Deutsche Bank says no, they're going down, and they bet. And then people bet on those bets, and people bet on those bets, and people bet on those bets. And there is this massive pyramid of these bets on, Vegas-like bets. And there is 1.2 quadrillion dollars worth of derivatives on the planet in banks. And sooner or later, somebody's going to stick a pin in that.
Who?
And then there's really going to be a crisis.
Wow. What is it called again? Can you say that again? This derivative?
They're derivatives. The kind of derivatives are called interest rate swaps.
Interest rate swaps. So basically, there's 1.4 quadrillion of these. Not trillion.
There's 1.2 quadrillion dollars worth of derivatives, and about 80% of those are interest rate swaps, which puts the figure at around a quadrillion.
And people so the banks are betting, and the people are betting on the bank's bet, and then other people are betting on their bets, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the banks are using, at least in the US, they use depositors' money to make these bets.
What? And with the bail-in policy, it basically means once you deposit your money in the bank, now the bank kind of owns it. Like if the bank goes down, they can keep your money, right?
In the United States, Once a person deposits money in a bank, and this is a recent change in the law, once a person deposits money in a bank in this country, the bank owns that money. It's no longer
Legal.
yours. It's
Legal.
no longer yours. You're an unsecured creditor, like you put the carpet in the lobby. The bank owes you the money. You're a creditor. But that money belongs to the bank. Most people don't have a clue.
Yeah. So is it? I don't think it's 100% safe to have your money in the bank.
No, well, one of the things that I encourage, bail-in policy, which we talked about a second ago, applies to banks with assets of 50 billion or more. So I encourage people, if they've got money, I mean, in the US, if they've got money in Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase or Citibank, to move their accounts to a smaller regional bank under 50 billion in assets. That way they're not subject to the bail-in policy. To get back to your question, still they put money in the bank, whether it's 50 billion or more or less, that money does belong to the bank. So having some cash in the bank, some is okay, but that's not where the bulk of a person's assets should be, in my opinion.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. This is valuable advice. I don't think 90% of the people know about any of this. And I think it's very important for people to know that. So that they can make an informed decision, right? So let's come to crypto for a second. You've been doing crypto for a while now, and you've made some really amazing gains and profits in cryptocurrencies. What is actually going on with this? Like it's suddenly just boom, gone.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, anybody that's involved in crypto knows that it's a very volatile, asset section. It's new. It's like a baby getting legs. It's up. It's down. The conventional wisdom is that the recent crash, I'll call it a crash in crypto, is a result of that it's moving in tandem with the stock market, um, and is not an inflation hedge. This does not make sense to me because I
Neither.
think I think crypto is an inflation hedge, and I think it will get its legs, and people will go to crypto because while the dollar is currently high, the dollar's days are numbered, Avi, as the global financial currency, and we can talk about that. Um, but I think that crypto will be a go-to place for, if the currency is crashing, then besides precious metals, people will go to crypto. I recommend both. People go, well, gold or crypto. No, I would do both.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're big into precious metals too, and that makes a lot of sense because what I couldn't understand is that if the inflation's going up and the normal economy is going down, then people would go into crypto as a as an interest hedge, right? But then crypto is going down, so I feel someone's manipulating the crypto market so that they can buy more and sell higher.
Well,
I
I
don't know.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
That market is being manipulated because there is not, to repeat, there's not logic in what's happening. So there's some folks behind the scenes that are pulling some strings. I agree
Right.
with you.
But then there's a lot of these coins and tokens which are actually not fundamentally sound. Like Terra Luna, I bought a bunch of it recently when it fell, and I thought it's gonna stay. Even if it's at $1 or less than $1, it's still gonna be on the market. But it just fell flat, and it was a stable coin. A lot of my friends lost millions of dollars on it. But if I just feel like if a stable coin like that can go down, do you think other coins which are stable as well could go down?
Well, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have predicted that. I don't know who predicted it. If anybody predicted it, probably nobody. There's a study out that shows that of the cryptos and the number of cryptos that exist, the number keeps changing. The last one I read, there are 7,000 cryptos. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a little bit less. But there's a lot of them. And this study said about a third of them are legitimate. About the third of them represent good products or services, things that are valuable. Take XRP, for instance, right? Well, they have a great service that facilitates the transfer of money from, internationally, from this bank to this bank. It's a great service. So that company, and XRP represents a company that does great work. I think that's having been a banker, I think that's a great service. Ethereum provides a great service. There are others that are a joke. They don't represent anything valuable.
Exactly. And like any stock or any kind of investment, you got to analyze the fundamentals of it because they need to be sound, right?
Of course.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So you think crypto is here to stay and it's going to go back up. And I really don't think it mirrors the stock market. But if that fact is true, Bruce, would this mean that the people, like institutional investors who have billions of dollars invested in the stock market and the crypto, are actually controlling both in a way? Because if it's mirroring each other, like how does that even work?
Well, it's a good question because I don't agree with it. I don't understand it, to be very frank with you, because it doesn't make economic sense to me.
Right.
In my opinion, crypto should not be mirroring the Dow Jones. I think it's an entirely different asset class, and I think it is a great alternative. I mean, look what crypto has done in this Ukrainian war. As soon as the war started, Zelensky opened up their wallets for crypto donations. $100 million worth of crypto flooded into Ukraine. 100 million. So here's and then they use that money to arm their troops and so forth. I don't want to. I mean, we can or don't have to get in. I don't necessarily want to get into the politics of the war, but I'm talking about crypto and its use. And this is a kind of thing that Bitcoin got created for. A peer-to-peer use of a currency that bypasses the banks and the governments, and that money flooded in like that. They didn't have to go through a bunch of guys in pinstripe suits sitting on Wall Street.
Exactly. And there's talks about the government, like the US government and a lot of other countries as well, trying to regulate crypto. Do you think that's going to happen?
Well, it's happening in some places, and happening, kind of going forward in others. In the US, the president put out an issue that basically said it needs to be regulated. Unfortunately, the guy in charge of the SEC here, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which monitors stocks in the United States, he's, I wouldn't call him anti-crypto, but he's a disciplinarian. So he's putting out very strict rules and guidelines. I think he's gone way overboard. There is legislation in the U.S. Congress to mitigate some of that. Some countries are ahead of others. You have to kind of look at it, back up and look at it strategically. All of a sudden, Bitcoin comes out of the blue. There wasn't a government that was prepared for it. Right. Here it goes. And finally, some of these governments are waking up you know, with a $2 trillion crypto market, although that's down in the last few months, but crypto is booming, and Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S., I listened to him testify before Congress. He's in boredom on the subject. Oh, crypto. Well, maybe we should do something. I'll get back to you. No. Who's out in front here, Avi? The Chinese. The Chinese. The Chinese have tested a digital yuan on 140 million people. People are getting paid with digital currency. They're shopping with digital currency, and folks who may be kind of new to this world need to understand that there's two channels for cryptos. There is what are called, developing now, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. These are digital currencies that central banks will be putting in people's bank accounts. Mm-hmm. The other, so these are coming this is government money. The other is decentralized cryptos, and there you get Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera, et cetera. Two different channels. The decentralized isn't regulated, and governments are trying to regulate the decentralized. I don't think there's any question, unfortunately, because I'm not a fan of CBDCs, but my position is we're not going to stop them. 86% of the central banks on the planet are in the process of rolling out digital currencies to depositors in their country. This is coming. It's not a question. It's coming. So my viewpoint is, well, if it's coming, the U.S. should be out in front. No, they're not. China's way out in front, and this is going to be China's effort to dethrone the dollar. The digital yuan is miles ahead of any effort to put a digital currency into the U.S. The trouble with CBDCs, or digital currencies out of central banks, is, they can monitor everything that you do. Yeah. You go in to buy, Avi goes in to buy a 6-pack of beer, and gives him his credit card, and the note comes back and goes, no, this is the second 6-pack this month. We won't process it.
Wow.
So it will monitor behavior.
Wow. Okay.
Well, this is, people talk about a global reset. This is the reset. We are in the middle of a major reset of global currency as we speak. This is happening as we speak. So it's why I wouldn't keep a lot of money in the bank. It's one reason. And I would diversify into precious metals and into cryptos.
This has huge implications. I mean, if the digital currencies can monitor your behavior and get all of that information and data about you, that's huge. But then, wow, okay. But so what do you think? These banks, the Bank of International Settlements and all the central banks, they're powerful, they have the control, and then this crypto stuff comes out and it's decentralized, it's not regulated by them. So what do you think they're doing, or what is their reaction to suppress or take control over this decentralization?
Well, they're trying to, different countries are trying to regulate it. Some countries basically banned cryptos until they woke up, like India. I think at least there was, I don't know if they outright banned them, but I remember reading that they were going to ban them. Maybe they did, but then they turned around, Avi, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, they banned it for some time, then they unbanned it, and now They're coming out with their own digital currency.
Exactly. That's the point. Somebody woke up. Same thing happened in Russia. They
Yeah.
banned it, and then all of a sudden, they did a complete 180. Um, the International Monetary Fund keeps issuing on decentralized currencies. They issue press releases and they oppose them. Like the government of El Salvador made Bitcoin a legitimate national currency, and the IMF comes out with all kinds of, oh, that's bad and it's harmful and blah blah blah. Um, uh, it's my opinion that the IMF is going to seek to have a global digital currency. That's down the road a little bit. That's my opinion. But that would give them global control. I don't want to get too far into that because it's not done yet, but I think that's their intent. That's their intention. And any countries that are experimenting with decentralized currencies as part of their national currency, the IMF is coming out, at least verbally at this point, and opposing it. I don't know if they're going to come out with regulations or not to stop it.
Wow. All right. So these are basically when the governments and the IMF they issue their digital currency, it's going to be like normal currency, but they can track the behavior and data even more. But it's just the same as currency. Like we used to trade coins and metals and rocks, then we went to paper, now we're going into air. That's basically, but it's the same thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Wow. It's getting thinner and thinner and thinner. All right.
Yeah, I mean, cash is going away. Cash will be a relic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And just because you mentioned it, I want to bring it up. What's your take on the war that's happening in Ukraine?
Well, look, the Ukraine has got its warts. Ukraine and the West and the U.S. Were pushing Putin's buttons. About NATO and putting missiles next to the border, etc. So these are all Putin's excuses. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing excuses what Putin has done because people are dying there. And I don't, it surprised me. I mean, I was in Russia right after the fall of the Soviet Union. I was there several times. I worked with the government and other people there. And I followed Putin closely. And while he's always been a thug, and he's got a human rights record that is like is poisonous.
Really?
Still on the world stage, he was a pretty sharp guy. He knew how to maneuver geopolitically on the world stage. This war is way out of character for him, and he will not come out of this well. There's no win for him here. There is no win for him.
Right.
So I don't know. Additionally, I get news these days is he's ill. I don't wish cancer on anyone, but it was a really, say foolish isn't a strong enough word, decision to invade that country.
Yeah. Yeah. But with all this, like, they were invading, there was this NATO thing happening, and then chemical warfare factories, all of that stuff. Then there was a leaked footage of the American, I think she was the American Foreign Secretary or somebody in that Department of Foreign Affairs, who was, basically planting the Ukrainian government. So there was a lot of stuff that, the US is involved in the Ukraine war, and it's actually not Russia's fault, and Putin's doing the right thing. I don't agree with killing people. I mean, that's definitely not the right thing. But is this like self-defense that he's doing? Is he a messiah or is he the next Hitler?
Well, I don't think it's self-defense. You go back to what was going on, what has been going on in the Ukraine, which is CIA-sponsored bioweapons labs that the U.S. and other NATO countries have been sponsoring. So what's going on in the Ukraine is bad, but it's not an excuse, in my opinion, for Putin to throw an army in there and displace millions of people. He's killing women and children. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's okay.
it's like, uh, and you know, he has so angry, he has so isolated Russia now. I mean, he's the pariah of the world. There are sanctions. This is not good for Russia. And I've got friends over there, but this is not. This won't end well for Vladimir. It will not end well. I saw today in the news. I don't know if you. I'm not sure what you follow in the news, but a colonel from the Russian military got on the media today and was critical of the war in Russia. This is on Russian media. Yeah, this is like unbelievable. I mean, if he gets home alive, it'll be a surprise.
Yeah, that's ballsy. I mean, that definitely takes courage, especially sitting in Russia. Wow, I didn't see that. I'll check that out. All right, so that's we covered a lot of topics here. Now, it looks gloomy and there's a lot of like scare, fear in the news, right? So, what advice can you give to listeners on how to stay calm and stay strong in the current financial crisis or where we're heading with the inflation and the war and everything?
Well, let me repeat what I said earlier because I believe in it strongly. If you don't have some precious metals, get some. Buy some gold and silver. I'm a strong proponent of silver, stronger proponent of silver than gold, and that's a long story. But either one, gold or silver, get some precious metals. That's real money. It's been money for 5,000 years. And I think precious metals are going to have a very good year. I think once gold breaks $2,000 an ounce, there won't it'll be soaring for quite some time. And the other thing is, if you don't have cryptos, get your fingers wet, get your toes wet. Not even so much as a capital investment, but the world is going digital and currency is going digital. You should get some familiarity with digital currency. So, depending on where you live, go up into a major crypto exchange, buy some crypto, buy a little Bitcoin or Ethereum, and mess with a little bit. Buy it and sell it so you get some kind of feeling for it. Because if you look down the future, into the future, digital currency is where it's going, and people should be familiar with it. Now, if you get good and familiar and learn how to analyze, you can make some money there, or you can lose money, as you pointed out early on. Your friends got taken there, lost some money. But I'm not recommending it so much as a investment, as something to get familiar with as you go forward, along with precious metals. And if you're I don't know how many U.S. listeners you have, but if you're in the U.S. and if you're in one of the major New York banks, I would move out of those into a smaller regional bank.
Awesome. So these are the key takeaways. Get into precious metals, get your toes wet in cryptocurrencies, and put some of your money from the bank into regional banks.
Yes.
Thank you. That's very useful advice. All right, and I think it's a cinch that we're definitely going to be a cashless planet very, very soon. There's no, speculation about it because it's going to
Yeah, no,
happen.
no, no question. Cash is going away.
Cash is going away.
Yeah,
Okay.
wasn't it? I mean, I think I can't remember when it was. I think it was maybe a year ago when the Indian government banned one of the denominations, Avi, if I remember
Yeah, I
correctly.
think they banned a few actually, like two or three denominations, and they introduced a new one to fight terrorism and tax evasion.
Yeah, everything is to fight terrorism. You know that that's the fallback. Um, anyway, I mean, cash is going away, and people should be prepared for that. And there are, depending on where you are, um, and if you have some savvy on real estate, there is good real estate investments.
Yeah.
Um, you can get into in the United States. There's investments called REITs, REITs, which are real estate investment trusts that go into certain areas and invest. I'm a fan of agricultural REITs. These are companies that exploit farmland. You
Wow.
know, um, so you have an access to companies that help food. Food. If things get rough, those are good things to own. In addition,
Mhm.
uh, if people are into equities, I would look closely at, and I'm writing a newsletter on it now. And if people want to subscribe, you give my newsletter site out when we're done or something. But I'm writing a newsletter now on nuclear energy and a very good buy in some uranium stocks because this is growing. The planet um, is going non-carbon in India, in the U.S., in Europe. Um, so I'm going to make a recommendation on a very good nuclear stock. Um, lithium stocks are also good, which I've made some recommendations on. So there are things that you can buy that I think are going to do well going forward. Um, yeah,
Diversify, and yes, you're right, absolutely. We should all subscribe to your newsletter. I'm a avid reader of it. I read it every time you send it. Your advice is awesome. So it's on strategicfinancialintelligence.com, am I right?
that's exactly correct. Yeah.
All right, I'll put the link in the description as well, so that if any one of you listening, you want to subscribe to his newsletter, please do that. It's strategicfinancialintelligence.com, and you can search for John Truman Wolfe or Bruce Wiseman, and you'll get it on Google as well. Awesome, good. So there's a lot of young listeners who also listen to my show. What books or an advice would you recommend to someone who wants to learn and start investing and trading in the normal stock markets and cryptocurrencies?
There's a great book which I read years ago and still stands me in good stead. It's got kind of a corny title. It's called How to Make the Stock Market Make Money for You. The author is Ted Warren.
Edward.
Um, he is passed, and the book is out of print, but it is available on Amazon. How to Make the Stock Market Make Money for You, Ted Warren. It gives basics on investing that have stood me well for years. So I would recommend that book.
Awesome. And any other advice for starting out as an investor and trader?
Well, due diligence, you
Yeah.
know, uh, due diligence. I mean, the ideal scene is if you're going to invest in a company, you should be able to read a financial statement. Uh, if you're not relying, I mean, an awful lot of people now, obvious, I'm sure you know, invest in what are called ETFs here,
Mm,
which are that's a company that invests in other companies. So maybe you
yeah.
want to invest in, I don't know, oil. So you get an oil ETF, and the ETF then invests in several other companies, and you benefit presumably by the expertise of the people running the ETF. So you don't have to be an expert in oil, for instance.
Right. And
Uh,
ETFs are not they're passively managed, right? So they're not like getting the management fees that mutual funds are getting.
that's right.
Right. So
Yeah,
there's only
ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund. Just so
yeah.
you know what.
I'm big into ETFs because I feel it's like the safest investment for a newbie. So you just keep putting your money as a systematic investment plan every month, and it just keeps going up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. This was amazing. Your book, if someone wants to buy your book, they can get it on Amazon called Crisis by Design.
yeah.
That's right.
The Crisis by Design, Avi, actually, that was the original title. And then I got a new publisher, and the book came out. I added 2 chapters in about 10,000 words, and we changed the title to The Coming Financial Crisis. So it's basically the same book with additional data. If people want either one of those books, they just put in as you have kind of alluded to, I write under my pen name John Truman Wolfe. So if somebody goes to Amazon and puts in John Truman Wolfe, all my books come up there. I got, I don't know, 6, 7 books up there.
Wow. All right. Yeah. And you have some fiction books as well, I saw. The
I
Tom
do.
McCain. Yeah. You're a very prolific person, my friend. That's great.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, the fiction books are more fun to write, but the nonfiction sells better.
Yeah.
Um,
Any new books coming in the pipeline?
yeah, I've got the fiction books are I have a character. I think I've got 3 with this character. He's a private eye out of Berkeley, California. I've got the 4th one about halfway done in my computer, and I chip away at it as I have time.
Awesome. Awesome. So John Truman Wolfe on Amazon and everything's going to come up, all the books. So guys, you can do that. Thank you so much for taking out the time, Bruce. And thank you everybody for listening. Keep slaying, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday, same time, 10:30 a.m. EST, not 7:30 p.m. Indian time. All right. Have a great one. Keep slaying, guys. See ya.
Thanks, Avi.
Bye. The Slay Your Day Show with Avi Vatsa.